Okay, folks in internet land, hello. I said I wasn't going to be showing my face on my videos, but since my last video had my face, hey, why not make videos with my face? And I did on my old channel. Well, this is a requested video. I'm eating candy, people, so please bear with me. Excuse me. I shouldn't have eaten this candy if I'm making this video. So, the request was this. In my words, how do you deal with people who try to butt into your life? There are different ways of doing it. So much depends on the situation the person is in. One technique, and this could get a person into some trouble for various reasons in various ways. One technique is to make up a bunch of stories. Okay? Like your background, where you come from, who you are, where you've been, your beliefs, your ideas, your feelings. The problem with this one is that somebody might think that you're psychotic or schizophrenic or something like that. You know, there are a lot of people with schizophrenia that are just fine. You know, they function just fine. But you have these people in this world that as soon as a person, says something or does something that seems odd to them, it may not be odd at all, but it may seem odd to a particular person or a particular group. And as soon as that happens, well, then you know what? Got to stick you in a mental hospital. And there ain't nothing wrong with you. So, for example, when candy is sticking in my teeth, I had said something in one place I was in, and I got sent to the isolation area, not to an isolation cell, but that institution. When you first arrive, you spent 1 or 2 weeks back in this adjustment area, where they monitored you, and it was a very small area. And if you got into a fight, if you did this, that, or whatever, that's where you got sent. And they had the isolation cells back there. They weren't very good isolation cells because you could actually take you could actually open the windows basically. And there was this one guy. He kept escaping. Well, finally, they put him in restraints, and he escaped the restraints and escaped through the window. And then they put him in restraints with socks over his hands. They go like all the way up your arm. And they actually had somebody sitting in the room with him. So yeah, you got to be careful about what you say, and how you say it. When I was in the last place that I was in, the hellhole called the Devereaux Foundation. That place is still around, by the way. At breakfast time, I would eat breakfast, and I'd pretend to get up to go to the bathroom or go to the water fountain. Now I'd bolt out the back door. First time I did it, I was afraid there was going to be an alarm on the door. There was a sign or something painted on there. But I said, hell with these people, and I took off. I took off into the woods. That was a good 100-yard dash across this here field. Excuse my southern slang, but and there was a real swampy area back there, and I had to plod through there. That wasn't fun because, you know, a lot of snakes in swamp areas. It wasn't a swamp, but it was swampy, if you understand what I'm saying. And then I'd just stay in the woods all day. I think excuse me, my beard and mustache. Well, my mustache I didn't have to shave off, but my beard I had to shave off. And now my hair, I'm having to get used to the way I'm regrowing the beard. So, you know, the simplest thing, to be honest with you, is to isolate yourself. And that too can get you in trouble because the person I'm thinking of, this person may or not be able to do some of these things. But isolate yourself. And isolating yourself isn't always the healthiest thing in the world, but that's why you have TV, radio, books, CDs, LPs, 45s, 78s, cassette tapes. You can get a ham radio and talk to people all over the world, get a scanner and listen to what's going on out there, magazines, you could get online, of course. If you need some exercise, you need to be able to move around. You could get a treadmill, you could get an exercise bike, you could get a punching bag like we have. Get some free weights, like those hexagonal dumbbells. You know, get a mukjong, a wooden dummy, a jiu-jitsu dummy. That'll give you things to do physically, and it'll also help you mentally. Books are fantastic. You'll learn from books. Stay away from people. Have as little to do with people as you absolutely have to. When you are around people, be very careful about what you say. But don't make up too many stories because you have to keep track of what you tell people. The thing is with me and my age and the places I've lived in my life is I have lived on 3 continents. I have lived in multiple places in this world. Just in Tejas, in Texas alone, I lived in Texas 44 years, I believe it was. And I lived from North Texas to West Texas to Southeast Texas to the coastal bend, the hill country, and I visited even more places in Texas. And I basically hated every place. North Texas was, in parts of East Texas, were actually pretty good in the Texas plains. My grandparents had a farm out there, and that I enjoyed. I enjoyed when I was out on the farm. I'd go fishing. I couldn't go swimming because he had gators. But I'd go fishing, go horseback riding, just walk around in the woods, walk around in the fields, walk around the pasture. And me, a pasture and a field are 2 different things. A field is where you farm. A pasture is where you graze. I have a legal name and a nickname. My nickname is the name everybody knows me by. So, you know, the thing is, people could find me. I mean, I don't exactly hide. There's a group of people in the area that I don't like, and they don't like me, and that's just the way it is. Now, these people are insane. I mean, truly insane. They're extremely paranoid. They have a leader that they follow like it's a god. They can't get elected if their lives depended on it. I checked when I got back online the election results because I used to know this guy. His daughter was actually our flower girl. He ran a couple of years ago, and he ran again this year, and he didn't get elected. I am in no way in hell going to vote for somebody that's a follower of a pedophile, period. So that's important. But really, it's just You know, if the police come and they, you know, they ask if something's going on, say, no, nothing's going on, everything's fine. You don't necessarily have to open the door for them. I don't know what the laws are concerning that. I think it may depend state to state, but I'm not sure. I know I'm not really providing a whole lot of good information here. A mailing address that is not your home address. That helps. You can get a P.O. box, you can get a mailbox at like the UPS store or other private mailboxes. You can frequently change your address. That way nobody really knows exactly where you live. Okay, because you can go back, like you change, let's say you change your address 10 times, or 15 times, or 20 times. Well, every once in a while you want to go back to one of your previous addresses for your mailing address. And this will confuse the hell out of people because they won't know exactly where you live. You do want to be careful about what you say and how you act, because that in itself can get you in trouble. There's a good book by J.J. Luna. He's a Spaniard. I think he's still living. And he wrote a book, and I don't recall the title of it. I think he's older than I am, but we're what they call Old Spanish. And what that means is we come from a particular generation, the Franco generation. You know, when we lived under a dictator, things were very, very bad in Spain under Franco. And he learned how to do it. There's a guy who was in Yugoslavia during the war in Yugoslavia, and I don't know if I still have it or not, but at one point he had a blog post. It was really, really long, and he was writing about how to deal with living in a war zone, like in an urban environment that is constantly at war. There are snipers everywhere, and you don't know who they are, and of course you don't know where they are. You don't know. You may know there are snipers out there, but you might be able to go out one day, and not a single sniper is shooting at anybody. You go out another day, and they're all shooting at every target they can get. It's random. They were sometimes doing it randomly. Sometimes they targeted specific groups or individuals. Go out at night. To give you an example, in San Antonio, what I had decided to do before I left was I was going to stay in my apartment. I was only going to go to the grocery store at night. I had to take the bus. It's good to not have a routine. It's very important not to have a routine, because if you have a routine, if people know what time you get up in the morning, what time you go to bed at night, if they know when you leave the house, where you're going, why you're leaving, if they know how you're moving about, if you're going by city bus, by taxi, by your own vehicle, on foot, etc., then it's easier for them to follow you. Wear different clothing. And when I say wear different clothing, not just like a different color shirt, but maybe sometimes you wear more baggy clothes, other times more dirty, trashy kind of clothes. Other times you dress very neat and clean and the clothes fit right and everything. Basically, you're trying to look different. I mean, not just your clothes, but who you are. You want to look different to people. When they see you walking down the street, your gait is different. That's how you walk. The speed in which you walk, the way you pick your legs up, the way you move your upper body, the way you move your middle and lower body. Sometimes you keep your head up, sometimes you keep your head down, maybe to the side. Sometimes you limp. Don't take the same route. Let's say if the only reason you leave the house is to go check your mail and go to the grocery store. Check your mail. That's, you pay your bills by dropping something in the mailbox. You get your bill by going to the mailbox. Don't check the mail the same time every day. Don't even go out to check it every day. You may leave mail in the mailbox for 2 or 3 weeks. Other times you'll check it several days in a row. But don't check it for the same time every day. If you, let's say you have a camp, if you're homeless or homeless, move your camp from time to time. I don't mean move it 20 feet. I don't mean move it 200 or 300 yards. I mean move it 5, 10, 15 miles away. Move to another town. Move to another village. Move to another city, especially where nobody knows you. If nobody knows you, that's great. That's the best thing you can look for. Whoops, my Santa hat came off. Yeah, I don't really look that much like Santa Claus anymore because I had to shave this beard off. Anyway, that's really the best way to start. If you really want to be more under the radar, move someplace where nobody knows you. If possible, completely out of state. That's the best thing. Don't have a whole lot of friends. Don't have any friends. Have a very small number of acquaintances. Every few weeks, every few months, change who those people are. That way, nobody really gets to know you, and the people that you were acquainted with but not really friends with, if people go to them to try and find you or get information about you, they know very little about you, and they no longer know where you're at because you move. You don't move to another part of town unless you're in like a big city like New York City, Houston, Chicago, Los Angeles, Seattle. Then you can move to another part of the city, and nobody's going to know you there. When you do go to that city, come up with a nickname you can remember that you want to be called by. Every time you move, change that nickname. The only time you will ever use your legal name is if you're dealing with the police or Social Security Administration or anything like that. But any mail that goes to you, again, to a private mailbox, to a government mailbox, have your mail sent to a friend, to a family member, to a business. There are businesses that will take your mail for you. Some of them will expect you to pay them, but you just have your mail sent there. If you live in a smaller town or village, especially in the more rural area, and I'm not talking about where I live, this is more semi-rural than rural, and you might have one store. It may be a 3-hour drive to find another store, so that's the only store in town. So maybe other people get their mail. Just go ask the manager, talk to the manager. Don't just ask the manager, talk to the manager. Hey, yeah, I'm new in town. I haven't really found a place to live yet. I was wondering if I could have mail sent here, and I'm willing to pay you to hold it for me. I was wondering if that'd be okay. Once I find a more permanent place, then I can change where my mail goes, and then after a few months, move somewhere else. Find another place to have your mail sent, but don't do the same technique every time you move. Don't like go to a store in that town or village and have your mail sent there. Don't do that in every town. Sometimes you're going to want a P.O. box. Sometimes you're going to send it to a store. Sometimes a private mailbox. Sometimes there may be somebody in town who's willing to take it for you. Maybe the library will take it for you. Will hold your mail for you. Who knows? You just have to check on that. And when you leave the area, a new nickname, a new first name, a new middle name, a new last name. Sometimes you might want a middle name, sometimes you don't. With a nickname, you don't really need a middle name. Or you can say, well, my middle name is X, and that's what I go by. I knew somebody who used her last name as her first name. And that girl was a drunk. Believe me, she was a drunk. So those are some things you can do. Just don't be seen. If somebody comes to the door, just don't answer the door. You don't have to answer the door. If the lights are off, how does anybody know you're there? If let's say the police show up at your front door, there are two ways of handling this. One is to just don't turn the lights off once they arrive. Have the lights already off, because they'll see the lights being turned off. Don't push your hand against the door, like if you're going to go look out the peephole. Don't push on the door, because that you may not notice it, but outside they will notice it. Don't jiggle the doorknob or the lock on the door. Make sure it's already locked. There are these extendable bars you can buy that you can prop up against your door that will help keep your door from being kicked in. It won't stop it from being kicked in, but it'll slow them down, which might give you time to go out a window. But even then, if it's the cops, they may or may not have somebody, say, on the side of the building or in the back of the building waiting for you to go out. Now that's another thing you can do, is to when you exit your residence, sometimes exit through a window, sometimes enter through a window. But if you do that, if somebody sees you, they may call the cops saying, I think somebody's breaking in over here. So you got to be careful with that. Change, so if you don't wear makeup, then start wearing makeup. At least for a few weeks or a few months. It's better for a few months. People are going to start to expect to see you with makeup on, and then stop wearing it again. Other times you might want to wear makeup completely differently than you did previously. You look different. The way you hold yourself, the way you sit, the way you stand, the way you walk, do it completely differently. There was a lady in France in World War II. I don't remember her name. She was a member of the French underground. And I mean, the Nazis wanted this woman. I mean, they wanted her bad. And they even had her picture. They knew who she was. But one thing she would do, sometimes she would walk with a limp. Sometimes she would dress like she looked a whole lot older than she really was. You could make a fake mole or several fake moles on your face to make sure they look realistic. A wig, but again, make sure it looks realistic. The way you hold your shoulders, your arms, your hands, your fingers, the way you pick something up or sit something down, the way you speak, the way you look at things and look at people. And I'm looking at this lamp. Facial expressions, blend in to look like everybody else. If there's a march, a parade, a demonstration, whatever, if you have an idea of how people are going to dress, take that stuff with you like in a backpack. Wear those things under your clothing. And when you get to the event and you're ready, just walk into the crowd. Just like take your jacket off, your windbreaker, your sweater, your flannel shirt, whatever, and just drop it on the ground. Drop it in a trash can. Drop your backpack. Leave it. Put a hat on. Walk a little crouched over. That'll make you look different. Walk with a cane. Sometimes carry it in your right hand. Sometimes your left hand. Walk with crutches. And these are things you can do. I mean, one of the best things that I did when I was younger was, just spending time by myself in the forest. I go walking in cotton fields and cornfields. Now, in a cotton field, people can see because cotton isn't that tall, but corn is. Corn is really tall. My granddaddy, one of my granddaddies, he was a tall man. I mean, he was really tall, and he was a big, muscular man. And I used to have a picture of him next to his cornfield. And let me tell you, that old boy may have been a tall, big man, but that corn was a whole lot taller than him. Another thing you can do is when you buy shoes, buy specialty shoes so that the soles are like really thick. Get lifts that you can put into your shoes, and that'll make you look taller. Don't tell anybody you're doing that. You know, when you if you have a credit or debit card, don't use it. Or take it, go to the ATM, get every penny you can out of the ATM, and buy every single thing with cash. Because when we go to Walmart and we swipe our card, it registers. And when I go to Walmart.com or whatever their website is, I can see what I've bought, or at least I can see some things I've bought. And if I've bought it several times, it'll show up as we have this offer for you, or here's a frequently bought item. It's tracked. They know what you're buying. So let's say you go to different parts of town. I said that, but like, let's say you usually go to the grocery store, say 3 blocks from where you're living. Okay, stop doing that. Go in the opposite direction or a side direction and go 20 miles away. If you have to go by bus and it takes you 3 hours, do it. Because nobody there knows you. Again, spend cash, but don't use the ATM there. Use the ATM at another location. Maybe go, say you're at this point right here in the middle, and you go right here to buy groceries. Well, from your point, go over here to the ATM, and then get all your cash, and then go down here and to say the grocery store, then go over here to say Walmart or Target, and then go over here to buy something else. But don't go straight home. Go say up here, and then here, and then here, and then go home. So people don't know your routine. They don't know where you're going to go, and always take a different route, or as often as possible take a different route. Maybe for several days or weeks you'll take the same route, and then out of the blue you change where you go, how you get there, when you do it. Don't let anybody get your DNA. They can get your DNA by, like, if you're drinking a soda water. Right there, my DNA is on this. Your fingerprints. If you get a blood test, and read the paperwork, make sure that there's no there's not going to be sampling your DNA. You can take super glue. Yeah, I don't know how well it would work. You can super glue the fingerprint areas of your fingers, do some on your palms, and it may or may not help. There's the myth of wearing gloves. If you wear rubber gloves, your fingerprint can still get onto something. So what you'd want to do is say wear rubber gloves, like surgical gloves, medical gloves, and then put like cotton gloves over those. That way your fingerprint will hopefully not transfer. So those are some things you can do. Try and get a different name. I used to have at least one volume. I may have only had the first volume of the Paper Chase or the Paper Trip or whatever it was called, which was about privacy, and it suggested like if you're going to open a bank account at a bank or credit union, I don't know how well this would work, but you can go to the establishment, make sure you look clean and neat, you speak properly, etc. Look, I need to open an account. I'm new in town. Come up with a plausible reason you don't have any ID, but you need your account so your money can be sent to your account, direct deposit, and ways you can do that. Say, look, I have these letters of recommendation that are signed by people, and this look. There's a homeless shelter in our area, and they help people. Like you can have your mail delivered there. They will vouch for you to get, say, a library card, things like that. You can go up here. The welfare sort of thing is dealt with by the town. So if you need help, you go to the town. Then you change again. You change the town you live in every few days, every few weeks, every few months. It's not static. It's very fluid. One way you can do this is to write on little index cards, like you have like a box or a bag that you put index cards in for when you're going to go to the grocery store, and you have different times on each card. Say at 10-minute intervals. So 1 p.m., 1 10 p.m., 1 20 p.m., 1 30 p.m., 1 40 p.m., etc. And what you do is when you get up, pull a card out. Like if you're going to go to the grocery store that day or the next day, pull a card out. See what time it is on that card. Maybe some cards will say do not go this day. Do not go today, do not go tomorrow. So you pull the card out, it says don't go today, so you're not going to go. It says don't go today, don't go tomorrow, you don't go. That way it's random. And I mean, it's truly random. But those are some things that might help you. Like ham radios, if you really need to talk to people, you can talk to people on a ham radio. But you need a license. Actually, recently I thought I was in trouble because somebody showed up outside with all these antennas on their vehicle, and I was like, oh geez, the FCC is after me and I haven't done anything. I thought maybe I had done something inadvertently and I didn't realize it, and I was like, oh no. I mean, I was really scared. So if you are going to use a ham radio, amateur radio, make sure you're licensed. Of course, you could always, as long as you know the way people's how do you say, their call signs are. If you know how call signs work, you can come up with a call sign and pretend it's yours. Okay, just make one up. Maybe it's one that's not even registered to anybody. Maybe it is registered to somebody. Maybe it's registered to somebody in Germany. Maybe it's registered to somebody in Japan. Those are ways. Dead drops, another way of communicating with people. Those you have to be, like you go to the park and you're going to leave a message for somebody, and let's say I have books over here, so here's a book on existentialism. You're reading a book, and you have a letter. Say you have a letter or a note in there, and you're reading the book, and you take the little note out, and, especially if nobody can, you do it gently. You just stick the note so it falls under the bench where nobody can notice it falling. But you just naturally sit your hand down there. You don't actually take something out and make it look like you're putting something down there. Maybe when you get up to go, you can't see what I'm doing with my hands, but sitting there reading, and as you go to close the book, you're reading, and the piece of paper is right there, and as you close the book, your hand comes out, and you put your hand down to help push yourself up, and you drop a little note, very small. Fold it really, really small. But the person that is supposed to pick that up needs to know that that's where they pick it up at. And then when they pick it up, they can't be looking for it. They have to just, like, they drop something, like, so they drop this, and but something larger. Somebody from a distance can see that they dropped something, and they go to pick it up, and they drop it right to where the piece of paper is. So when they pick it up, they pick the paper up at the same time, and nobody is any the wiser. Communicating code. Come up with your own little code system. The thing is, what do they call that? Is it not displacement? Substitution codes, I believe, where like you substitute one letter for another, or a symbol for a letter, or a symbol for a number. Those are relatively easy for somebody to figure out. So you'd want something a little more elaborate than that. But you don't want a code that's confusing. So if somebody tries to decode it, you want them to be able to understand what you're writing. And there's another code system that's common, and I don't remember what it's called. Or you basically put them in 4 or 5 letters, or numbers actually. They're 4 or 5, well, you can use letters or numbers. And there's like 4, 4, 4, and then 1, or 4, 4, and then 2. I have to look what kind of code that. You could look up, I don't use Google anymore. I use DuckDuckGo. But, that's another thing. If you are using the computer, be careful what websites you use. Be careful what you say. Because these idiots that I talk about often, they've called the cops on me. And, we're talking about people who bully people, who practice and openly endorse raping children, basically. And, so you don't want to associate with anybody like that. You don't want to associate with anybody that is going to get you noticed by the authorities, period. If you need medicine, be careful with this. Don't just go and say, well, I need X medicine. Don't do that unless you actually have had a doctor prescribe that medicine. But I don't want to say any names because I don't want to get those websites in trouble. But there are online pharmacies that you can use. If you need medicine, use those online pharmacies. One of those pharmacies no longer takes credit. You have to either use Bitcoin or send them a cashier's check or send them a money order. That's perfect. Okay? So you get your medicine that way. I've considered that because of two of the medicines, I take several medicines, and but the one particular online pharmacy doesn't have at least one of my medicines. But I've considered doing that instead of dealing with doctors. Sometimes it could be a lot more expensive, though. Another thing you could do is change pharmacies from time to time. If you go to a local pharmacy, you go to CVS for a few months, and go to Walgreens, and go to the Target pharmacy, the Walmart pharmacy, just switch it off. And don't go to the pharmacy the same time every time. If you, let's say you go shop at that store. Some grocery stores even have pharmacies, at least in big cities. Wear different hats, and when you wear a hat, like you go into a store, keep the brim, the cameras are usually looking down at an angle at you. Keep your head down a little bit, keep the brim of the hat, help to cover your face. Wear dark sunglasses. Another thing you do is just to wear glasses with just clear lenses, or wear reading glasses. And because you're going to look different if you're wearing glasses than if you're not wearing glasses. So, but that helps. I hope some of this has been helpful. If not, I'm sorry. But one of I think the best ways to deal with it is just to stay to yourself as much as possible. And when you do associate with people, associate with as few people as possible, and completely change who those people are every few months. Can be hard to do. And part of that would be moving, actually leaving. Leave the state, and I don't mean to the next state or the state next to that. I mean, go cross country. Okay? That's not why I moved here. I moved here because of an organization that I now oppose. Several organizations that I now oppose. But lessons learned, right? But that can help. And you just freaking leave. Don't do any sort of research that's online that somebody's going to track. Like if you're going to look for different cities to move to, if you do look online, don't move to the cities you looked at, because even if they don't get your computer, they can contact your provider, they can contact your cell phone service provider, your internet service provider, and find out what websites you visited. They can contact actual websites like Facebook and YouTube and find out what you've posted. They can find out where you're at, where you're posting from. When you use a telephone, I don't remember what it's called, but there are phone numbers you can use that will disguise your phone number. It will provide the people a completely different phone number, sometimes a completely different area code, and it can be traced, but they have to. It's a little more time consuming, I guess, and unless you're really, really wanted for something, they're probably not going to go through and bother with all that. So, when you talk, change the way you say things, change your vocabulary, change the way you pronounce words. Maybe you stutter sometimes, and then other times you don't stutter at all. You change who you are. So, but isolating yourself, I think, is the best. I saw people in San Antonio that lived in storage units. They weren't supposed to be living in storage units, and don't ask me how in 110-degree weather somebody could live in a steel building with no fans, no air conditioning. I don't know how they could do it, but they did it. Stay away from gangs, from drugs, from alcohol, because the police were looking for that. The police in some places, not every place, do target homeless people, so don't look homeless. Don't act homeless. Don't beg if you can help it. I mean, if you have to, you have to, but just stay under the radar. Right now, that's the best advice I can give, and I don't think I've really provided a whole lot of good advice, but hopefully this is helpful. Have a great day.